all of those things. There's been a couple of instances, this program is already up and running, where growers have been busted for this, and the fines are hefty. They're six figures, $100,000, $300,000, that sort of thing. In order to be effective, this will have to be doubled up on by the county. We know, again, environmental health is on board right now. It's a funding issue. In regards to usage, expanding on that, a good metric to use. One lesson that we've learned in cannabis policy is that plant numbers aren't a great way to really track yield or water usage, because you can grow 10 1-pound plants, you can grow one 15-pound plant. It depends on how much soil you put it in. So for anyone who wants to know how much water cannabis uses, it's about 10% of the soil volume the cannabis is growing on in every like 3 to 5 days. Okay, and what that works out to be is comparable with something like tomatoes. In fact, tomatoes and cannabis have almost the exact same demand in terms of nutrients and water. The only difference is that cannabis gets bigger and can be in more soil. In regards to usage, the Water Quality Control Board, in concert with other state departments, they actually just recently released something where they want to start basically water monitoring for cannabis. Basically, just like they do for all other forms of ag, telling us how much we can use in a sustainable manner. Now, in order to do that, they need to know a baseline for what cannabis uses at different times of year and different climates, and they need pilot programs to track that. It's called a evapotranspiration index. One of the things that CCA is doing is we're trying to set up one of the very first pilot programs in the state to track our usage so that we can invite that type of water monitoring into the county. And the goal then is to see how much water it takes to generate how many tax dollars via cannabis. What we want to do is we consider every gallon of water that Calaveras has as resources spent. And what matters is what return is the community getting out of the resources they're spending. And so we want to have a higher return in tax dollars per gallon of water than any other crop in the county. And that is our goal. And we want that money to go back into watershed management to improve our capture here and improve the water resources in the county. And that's something that we're going to be working towards.
Nice. Great answer.
Next question, is anything being done to regulate water usage by growers so wells don't dry up? Okay, I think
just answered that.
Kind of answered that. Fires caused by growers, do they have to pay the cost to fight the fires?
So in regards to fires caused by growers, and yes, they happen, they're going to be subject to all of the same penalties that CAL FIRE and the county would levy on anyone who's guilty of that due negligence. One of the things that we've seen with growers is our growers, whether they're good or bad guys, they are not used to seeking support, whether it be calling the sheriff or calling a contractor. They do a lot of things themselves because they're afraid to interface with the community, because they're afraid it's not going to go well. One of the things that we try to do is try to, give them an umbrella to step out under and encourage them to communicate with the county and to get things done in a legitimate way. And what we have is people that are hooking up wells to generators, not using the properly rated wiring, things like that. And causing issues. It comes back to shoddy work. Now, as it happens in the urgency ordinance, it requires you to be fully up to code in order to be registered. That means that via inspections, these are the things that would have to be fixed in order for them to not have their registration pulled. So there is means for that in the urgency ordinance. However, we think that in order for it to be effective, things like the fire marshal would have to be involved. And again, it comes back to funding, which comes back to taxation.
I want to reiterate something that he said, that the emergency ordinance does have some regulations in that, but they know damn well that we're not going to be able to get to everybody. Fires go, I know of 4 fires that were started, like Kaz said, with generators and faulty wiring. Not only is CAL FIRE going after them, my understanding is our district attorney is going to go after them criminally also.
Okay, next question. Any chance the Mountain Ranch Sheriff's Substation will be reactivated? It would help calm residents' fears.
I would love to have a Mountain Ranch substation. If somebody can find me someplace to put it that we can afford, I would be more than happy.
There's one there right across the street from Senator's Market.
I was in that when I started in this department 14 years ago. I don't know what the deal is with it, why we're not there anymore. I don't know if that was a Dennis Downham thing. I don't know if it was a Gary Kuntz that didn't want to redo it, or what, if there was a cost involved. If somebody has some information, let me know and I'll be glad to look into it again. I don't know who owns that.
We'll find out and get back to you. We want you back.
That would be great. There you go, no water, no bathroom.
This next one is not a question. It has so much information on it related to so many different things that if it's okay with everybody, I'm going to choose a different one because it goes on and on about Colorado and is that all right? Okay.
Oh, and somebody brought me a note earlier. Please speak up if you have a question, just for that one person.
Okay, here's another water one. How much water per day is needed to sustain a 22,000 square foot grow? Well, it's a big concern for everybody. I'm sure there's a lot.
I would have to do a lot of math to tell you that. It really depends on the grow method. But the most important thing to take home is 10% of soil volume every 3 to 5 days. It really depends how spread out they are, what methods they're using, if they're mulched, if they're not, if they're in the ground, if they're not. But you can take that 10% number and you can use that. That's as reliable as we can get while being free.
Okay, how many of the problems assigned to the cultivation, sale, and use of cannabis are due to it being illegal and having reached its natural equilibrium of price and demand?
So
Good luck with that one.
it sounds like I wrote that. One of the recently in the debates in our country about whether or not to regulate cannabis, there was actually some statements issued by some of the world's foremost purveyors of economic theory. For instance, I believe it's the London School of Economics, where they talked about this, where there's been near 100 years of study on supply and demand in black markets and how it works. And it is true that black markets tend to raise prices, and criminal enforcement of black markets is a difficult thing to sustain because it is so costly without also dropping that price. So yes, black market does raise prices. Yes, an illegitimate market does drop them, which can help eradication efforts. And that is something that is a constant for illegal markets of things of this nature all over the globe.
How about simplifying? How much do you get per pound now legally?
Oh, the question is how much do we get right now per pound legally? So it differs for outdoor, greenhouse, and indoor, and it's a big range. It's going to be anywhere from $600 a pound up to probably about $2,500 a pound right now. And it really depends on a lot of factors. It is supply and demand, and there's a higher price, for instance, for indoor. Indoor also, however, involves a lot higher cost of production. And there's some things in there, but that's a reliable range.
Why is the planning department issuing permits to people in a homeowners association that has CC and R?
That would be a question for the planning commission. If there are CCNRs that don't allow it, the homeowners association needs to take action on that. It's a civil issue. The sheriff's department cannot get involved in that because it is a homeowners ordinance.
Something that I would say is, CCA supports legal growing. When an HOA has the right under the law to pass its own standards of living via its own rules, and therefore we do not condone growing in HOAs that prohibit it. However, what we do advocate for is if an HOA board decides that growers should not be welcome inside their community, that we hope to work with them to allow those growers to exit in a fashion that does not leave them bankrupt. There's certain times of year where it's easy to move. There's others where it is not. And there's certain growers where obviously you got to get them out. You got to get them out. There's bad guys out there. But there's other people that have lost everything in the fire and have everything they own in those gardens who would be happy to move once they're financially whole. And one of the things that we try to do is to mediate those conversations whenever possible. But at the end of the day, we stand with the law and we stand with the HOAs and their right to enforce that.
I'd like to add to that, and this is Rick's personal opinion. If they started to grow in an HOA knowing that they weren't supposed to have a grow in there, you're rolling the dice. And if they lose everything, that's their problem. I've told Kaz this before, if they're growing illegally and they lose their ass, it's their fault. If you're going to go to Tahoe and Vegas and gamble, it's your fault if you lose money. So there's no reason that my citizens in this county should suffer in an HOA because somebody's going to lose money that should not have been there.
Okay, Kaz, this one's directed to you. Kaz, you talk about our county, our, O-U-R in capitals. How long have you been a member of our community and why did you come?
Busted. So I've been here about 18 months. And I would love to tell you about how that came to be. I had another career. I went to college, I wore a fancy suit, I made a lot of money, and I was miserable. And I was really upset with how I was in healthcare and with how corporate healthcare was run. One of the things that I did have a lot of contact with is patients. In that time, I became well convinced of the medical efficacy of cannabis. I became convinced of the amount of money that could be made growing cannabis. And I then, after a lot of research, became convinced that it's something that could be sustainably integrated with the community. I went somewhere to try that out. I went to Humboldt. I didn't like Humboldt. I thought Humboldt was a victim of years and years of black market economics. I thought there was too much greed and suspicion. I thought there was too much economic damage. I came to Calaveras because people were doing it here differently. Because there is a higher proportion of good guys in the growers in Calaveras than anywhere I've ever been. Because there are people here that really, actually walk the talk, that care about this and want to do this right, that care about you guys. And one of the things that's really hard for us is that it's really hard for people to believe us when we say that. I came here on purpose because I wanted someone to do it the right way. I wanted to be part of it being good. That's why I'm here, and I am new. And if that ruffles some feathers, I apologize.
Okay, if the ordinance in November does not pass, what will take its place? Is this a pork barrel, one good part and a lot of loopholes? How can we rewrite it?
So if the urgency ordinance does not pass in November, what was that?
The
If
November.
the C3 does not pass. If C3 does not pass, the urgency ordinance remains in effect. Then the urgency ordinance needs to be readopted at some point, I believe, February. So if C3 fails, the urgency ordinance remains in place until it is either replaced by another ballot initiative or by a permanent ordinance that is put in place by the county.
Okay, has the sheriff's office investigated where all this cash is coming from? Is this organized crime or illegal profits from growing?
Oh my
I don't have the resources to figure out where the money came from, nor do I have a legal right to find out where the money came from. On the properties, problem is I can do asset forfeitures on the monies that have been gained by the sale of illegal marijuana. The problem is proving that it's illegal marijuana. Now that we have an ordinance, it becomes a civil issue. And our district attorney won't go after civil because she's a criminal district attorney. So at this point, we don't have any avenues other than if it's an illegal grow, we can do a, what was that called? No, it's a civil injunction basically through the county's attorney. But that takes about 90 days to get done. And in 90 days, they'll be gone. So there's no real answer for that at this point, I'm sorry.
Based on the national awareness of bad feelings towards police in the public eye, is the federal government giving specific assisting help to Calaveras County?
No.
I think I could have answered that one. Are the feds taking notice of this situation? Is the IRS taking notice?
The IRS is taking notice. The problem is they're part of our federal government, obviously, and the feds still say that